Did they really steal the elections? Have you ever wondered how former Vice President Joe Biden, a candidate who had long struggled to generate enthusiasm and spent much of the 2020 presidential campaign in his basement, managed to receive more votes than any presidential candidate in history? This video might provide you with an explanation. 2004, trouble starts in Venezuela. Back in 2004, a leader in Venezuela named Hugo Chavez was worried he'd lose a big vote to stay in power. He called his friend, Fidel Castro, the president of Cuba. Fidel said to him,
"Don't worry, we've got a trick."
They suggested using special voting machines that could secretly change votes with a computer program. 3 smart engineers in Venezuela made a simple version of this program and put it into machines, helping Chavez win when he shouldn't have. Chavez and his Cuban friends were thrilled that it worked. They spent $200 million to improve the cheating system. 2004 to 2006, spreading to other countries. They used the system in nearby countries, such as Nicaragua and Argentina, to help socialist leaders like themselves win elections. 2006, sneaking into America. By 2006, the same folks created a company called Smartmatic in Delaware, US, saying it made honest voting machines. But they didn't tell anyone it was secretly tied to Venezuela. The same 3 engineers from Venezuela installed the software with the same source code as the original version. Some people, like a politician from New York named Carolyn Maloney and election checkers in California, noticed the machines had secret ways to cheat and raised alarms.
This looks fishy.
This has too many backdoors.
That's right. There are actually 14 backdoors that the engineers can use to manipulate the voting results. We will discuss this later. At that time, Arnold Schwarzenegger was governor of California, and his administration rejected the voting machine.
You are rejected.
2006 to 2010s, playing hide-and-seek with companies. To avoid getting caught, the Smartmatic folks bought another company, Sequoia, then sold it to a Canadian company called Dominion. In 2011, Jerry Brown was the governor of California. Unlike Governor Schwarzenegger, Brown approved the Sequoia company and gave them a contract to run elections in California. Since then, all California elections have been conducted using software developed in Venezuela.
Since 2011
Is our
in
democracy
California,
being stolen right
They
now?
claim that with this voting machine, a conservative will never win a statewide election in California for the next 3,000 years.
But how come a few Republicans win in statewide elections or small races?
It's because the software is designed to make winning a chance, like using a lottery slot machine. More than 99% of the time, users will lose, but once in a while, they win.
Really?
Well, originally the software from Cuba was taken from a lottery machine.
Yes, that's where the software originated.
Smartmatic and Dominion made a deal. Smartmatic would use its cheating machines outside the U.S., and Dominion would use them inside the U.S. The voting companies didn't only receive money from Venezuela, but also from China and the Open Society Foundation, which is owned by a wealthy man named George Soros, in order to continue the cheating. This becomes an international conspiracy. 2008, a big surprise in the Democratic Party's presidential primaries. In Illinois, the city of Chicago and the Cook County for the first time used the Smartmatic voting machines for the 2008 Democratic presidential primaries. Everyone thought Hillary Clinton would win, but the machines awarded the victory to Barack Obama. It is claimed that the Smartmatic's machines switched the votes in Obama's favor. Since then, the voting machines were used widely in all states in the U.S. It is claimed that these machines have secretly selected the winners of U.S. presidential, senatorial, and other elections. 2010s to now, a worldwide cheating network. Hugo Chavez passed away in 2013, and his vice president, Nicolas Maduro, became president of Venezuela. Maduro implemented the same socialist policies as Chavez and won every presidential election by using the cheating machines. Many people thought that Venezuela was a poor third-world country, nothing but just another banana republic. But it's not. Venezuela is a very wealthy country because it has the world's largest oil reserves. However, the country is also home to a criminal organization called the Cartel de los Soles, which generates over $3 trillion per year from drug production. The Cartel de los Soles controls all drug trafficking in the Western Hemisphere. Smaller cartels, such as Sinaloa, Jalisco, work for the Cartel de los Soles. With this tremendous amount of money, they can spread their voting machines to over 72 countries and bribe officials within the U.S. government, U.S. intelligence services, and voting districts and apparatuses. Right now, it's not just Venezuela participating in this criminal conspiracy, but also Cuba, China, Russia, Serbia. 2020, a stolen U.S. election. In 2020, Trump was reportedly ahead in the presidential election against Joe Biden. However, the machines flipped votes in key states overnight, giving Biden the win. This broke normal patterns, such as Trump losing counties that typically predict the winner. The U.S. voting system was intentionally left unprotected, allowing other countries to access the voting results. China built giant Huawei servers in Serbia, and the Venezuelan government has another large server in Venezuela. These servers have access to U.S. voting machines. It is reported that they have special engineers and statisticians. From these countries, they accessed voting machines in a specific state and stole an election by attacking 3 counties. They will use different techniques in each county. They will never use the same techniques in adjacent counties. They know what they're doing. 2020 to 2023. Whistleblowers and enemies of the state. 2 brave people, Gary Bernstein and Martin Rodil, who are known as whistleblowers, told Trump's team about the cheating, but their proof wasn't ready. Gary Bernstein is a former CIA operations officer. Martin Rodil was a criminal investigator who used to work for the Department of Justice and Drug Enforcement Administration. Gary Bernstein and Martin Rodil recruited a dozen engineers who build the voting software, both from within and outside Venezuela. The recruitment process was costly. They had to provide safe housing for the engineers, along with food, equipment, and everything necessary to protect them while they worked. Seeking financial support, they turned to former National Security Advisor General Michael Flynn. The general connected them with Patrick Byrne, who ultimately became the key benefactor. Byrne funded their efforts for several years. The software engineers revealed that there are 14 ways to attack the scanners and tabulators. They also discovered that the voting machines were originally manufactured in China, but were first sent to Taiwan to avoid scrutiny, creating the illusion that they had been produced there. From Taiwan, the machines were then shipped to the U.S. The software and source code were developed in Venezuela. In 2023, during the Biden administration, Bernstein and Rodil reported their findings to an FBI officer. The officer warned them to go into hiding and leave the city immediately. He cautioned that if the FBI learned of their activities, the investigation would be sabotaged and they would likely be arrested. The officer advised them to take their findings to Congress and the media. However, Congress refused to meet with them, intimidated by the potential fallout. They approached a half-dozen senior media figures, showed them the evidence, but the journalists, too, were too fearful to act. After the DOJ and FBI attempted to investigate the whistleblowers, Gary was forced to leave the U.S. and spent a year in Switzerland. While the election was being stolen, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency, or CISA, engaged with Smartmatic to coordinate responses. CISA also worked with foreign governments and U.S. socialist sympathizers to steer the country toward socialism through the use of voting machines. According to Bernstein, this collaboration included the Venezuelan government, Democratic Party leaders, and the Soros Organization. They came very close to successfully overtaking the nation. The Chinese Communist Party, CCP, and the socialist government of Venezuela both harbor a deep animosity toward the United States and have a shared goal of undermining it from within. Together, they have been flooding the U.S. with deadly drugs, causing approximately 100,000 deaths annually. In addition to this, Nicolás Maduro deployed his organized crime group, Tren de Aragua, to infiltrate the U.S. Gary learned from sources in Venezuela that 300 high-ranking members of Tren de Aragua received formal military training before being sent to the U.S. Following them, another 5,000 members entered under the direction of the original 300. Their mission? To commit crimes, distribute drugs, incite riots, and gather intelligence for Venezuela and Cuba. All of these efforts are aimed at destabilizing and ultimately destroying the U.S. from within. 2024, the U.S. presidential election. In the 2024 presidential election, Trump managed to overcome issues with the Smartmatic voting system and emerged victorious. So, why did the cheating machines fail to stop him this time? In an interview with Rasmussen, Peter Tickton candidly explained that the key difference between the 2020 and 2024 elections was the fate of the servers operating in Serbia. In 2020, these servers were not blocked, allowing manipulation of the voting results. However, in 2024, they were successfully blocked, ensuring an accurate count of the presidential votes. It's still unclear exactly how the Trump team managed to block the Serbian servers. By cutting off access to the U.S. voting machines, foreign engineers in Serbia were unable to alter the results in crucial swing states. On top of that, Elon Musk played a pivotal role in encouraging right-wing voters to turn out in large numbers, making the result too overwhelming to manipulate. 2023 to 2025, fighting back. By 2025, Elon Musk and his Doge team investigated USAID and uncovered an organization called SEPS. This group had allegedly used up to $600 million in taxpayer funds since 2008 to promote a controversial voting software system to more than 30 countries worldwide. In many of these nations, U.S. State Department officials were reportedly acting as promoters, pressuring governments to adopt the system. Whistleblowers brought this information to the Trump administration, prompting a series of actions: the arrest of a senior Smartmatic executive, the capture and deportation of Tren de Aragua gang members, a crackdown on drug and illegal migrant flows into the U.S., and the deployment of warships near Venezuela to pressure Nicolás Maduro to step down. By the end of the Biden administration, an estimated 15 million illegal immigrants were living in the U.S., many of them adult men of military age. There is growing concern that such a vast number of illegals would potentially be used to suppress American citizens in the event of violent and bloody conflict during a shift toward a socialist dictatorship, similar to regimes in China, Cuba, Venezuela, or Russia. All right, assuming the whistleblowers' report about the voting machines is true, how did Dominion win settlements from Fox News and Newsmax regarding their coverage of alleged fraud? Whistleblowers had offered to provide information and witnesses that would have proven Fox News and Newsmax were reporting the truth. They were prepared to testify in court, yet both networks chose to settle with Dominion, paying hundreds of millions of dollars rather than go to trial. Why did their legal teams prefer to settle and reject assistance from these whistleblowers? Gary Burnson claimed that the reason Dominion and Smartmatic haven't sued him is because they know he has the original source code for their software, which he allegedly obtained from Venezuelan software engineers he hired. There are still many unanswered questions, but at least now we know the origins of the voting machines, how they can manipulate results, and who is behind this fraud.